When it comes to organizing data for your team, Airtable is one of the best apps available. With features like linked records, customizable filters and views, workflow automation, and visual interfaces, Airtable can completely change the way that you work every day. In this second part of our Airtable Beginner's Guide, we'll give you a closer look at those features. Hi, I'm Tom from XRay.Tech, the workflow company. At XRay, we use tools like Airtable to build no-code and low-code automations for our members. If you'd like to see more tips about workflow automation, no-code tools, AI, and more, be sure to like this video and subscribe. In this video, I'm going to finish our beginner's guide to Airtable and walk you through several of the app's most useful features. Now let's get back into it. Let's continue our deep dive into Airtable with a look at linked records and lookups. Linked records are a handy feature in Airtable that allow you to associate records between two different tables. This makes it easy to build complex relationships between your data and ensures that your records stay organized and connected. Let's say you have two tables in your Airtable base, clients and project managers. You want to be able to associate each client with the project manager who's assigned to them. Here's how you can use linked records to accomplish this. In the clients table, add a new field called project manager. Set the field type to link to another record. Select the Project Managers table. When you save the field, you'll see a new column with the title Project Manager appear in your Clients table. This column will be a link to the Project Managers table. To link a client record to a Project Manager record, click on the cell in the Project Manager column for that record. A drop-down menu will appear, allowing you to select the Project Manager record you want to link to. Note that the drop-down menu displays each record using the primary field as the label. This is why we like to use a formula to populate the primary field. We can ensure that the naming conventions are consistent, making it easy to find the record we need when we're creating linked records. We can also quickly update those naming conventions by simply editing the formula instead of renaming every record manually. Once you've linked a client record to a project manager record, you can access information from the linked record using lookup fields. To create a lookup field, add a new field to the clients table and set that field type to lookup. In the lookup field options, select the project manager field you created earlier. This will pull the data from the linked record, such as the project manager's name and contact information. Using linked records and lookups like this can help prevent redundancies. You've already entered the data once in the other table. With a linked record, you don't have to enter all that same data again. Plus, it lets you put all the same data in multiple places without having to worry about inconsistencies. Whenever you update a record, the update will be reflected automatically in any record that links to it. In many cases, you might not be sure whether you should use linked records or just use a single or multi-select field instead. In general, you should use linked records whenever you need access to additional attributes from the associated record, and not just a single label or value. If you only need one piece of data, using a single select field or a multi-select field will probably be quicker and easier. But it will really be a judgment call based on your specific circumstances and what other information you'd like to include. Overall, linked records are a powerful tool that can help you organize and connect your data inside of Airtable. By linking records between tables and using lookup fields to pull in related data, you can create a robust database that is tailored to your specific needs. With the addition of linked records and lookup fields, our base is becoming more robust and useful. Let's take it even further by adding some custom filters and views. Filters help you narrow down the records that are visible in a particular view, while views allow you to create different perspectives on the same data. We'll start by creating a filter. Suppose you have an employees directory table, which contains information about all your employees at your company. You want to create a filter that only shows new hires, employees who joined the company within the last month. Here's how to create that filter. Open the employees directory in Airtable and click on the filter button in the toolbar. Choose the filter condition. Choose the field you want to filter by. In this case, you want to filter by the date hired field. For this example, you want to choose is on or after 1 month ago. And you'll see the filtered results in your table. Now that you've created a filter to show new hires, you may want to create a new view that only shows these results. Here's how to create a new grid view that only shows new hires. Choose Grid as the view type and give it a name like New Hires. Click Save and you'll see your new view in the table. Add the same filters as before to this new view. Then go back to the original grid view and delete the filter. And give it a name like View All. Now we can just switch back and forth between those two views to see all employees or just new hires. Note that filters and views will never delete data. They just sort or hide data temporarily based on your configured settings. These two views are pretty convenient, but grid views are just the start. Airtable also offers several other types of views that you can use to visualize and organize your data. Here's a brief overview of each. A Kanban view is a board-style view that displays records as cards, which can be dragged and dropped into different columns. The columns can be mapped to any single select field, like a status or priority field. A Kanban board is useful for visualizing workflows and progress and is great for managing a tasks database. A timeline view is a chronological view that displays records as events on a timeline. This view is useful for tracking deadlines and high-level milestones. Similar to a timeline view, a Gantt view is a view that displays records as bars on a timeline and shows dependencies between tasks. Because of the dependencies, this view is useful for more granular project management and scheduling compared to a timeline view. Note that both of these views require the addition of a date field. Without a date field, you won't be able to display this data at all. A calendar view is a view that displays records as events on a calendar and allows you to filter by date range or other criteria. Calendar views are ideal for scheduling and planning and can be a great way to make a content calendar or a high-level schedule. A gallery view is a view that displays records as cards in a gallery and allows you to customize the card layouts and fields displayed. Using a gallery view lets you focus on an image attached to each record and could be a great way to review design assets or media. A list view is a view that displays records as a list and allows you to customize which fields are displayed and in what order. A list essentially looks and works like a simplified grid. Lists are a convenient way to just display a title and basic info for each entry instead of a long list of fields. Of course, you could always just hide fields in a grid view, but list views feature a simpler UI, which makes it easier for non-technical people to view a curated subset of a larger database. Finally, a form view. This is a view that allows you to create a custom form for adding new records to your table. Airtable forms are a great way to collect data from external sources and simplify data entry. They can also be a useful tool when you start building automations in your database. Many automations will trigger whenever a new record enters a specific view, remember? Or whenever a record is added to a database. If you add the record directly to any other view type, an automation may trigger while you're still populating those fields, which would result in the automation trying to run with incomplete data. With a form, a record isn't created until you click Submit, so you can ensure that all of the data you need is there before the record is created. Each view type is designed to serve a specific purpose, so it's important to choose the right view for your specific needs and the person you're designing it for. Just make sure to always keep a simple grid view with all the records displayed. Even though filters and views don't delete any of your data, they can make it hard to find certain records or fields if you don't have a convenient View All option. I've brought up the subject of automation a few times in this video, and there's a reason for that. Airtable is one of the best database apps available for building no-code and low-code workflow automations. The granular control afforded by filters and views make it easy to choose when your automations run and which records they process. You can easily set up an automation to run whenever a new record is added to a specific view. So essentially, you can prompt an automation to run based on any data that's available to you in Airtable. Many automations can even be built directly in Airtable, although third-party providers like Zapier and Make will definitely give you more extensive integration abilities to other apps you already use. To give you an idea of how Airtable automation works, I'll show you how to build a simple automation using Airtable's native automation tool. Every automation consists of a single trigger event that prompts the automation to run, and one or more automated actions that will occur whenever the trigger is activated. For our example, we're going to send a Slack message whenever a new hire is added to our onboarding view. The onboarding view has a filter so that it only shows employees with a status equal to onboarding. Whenever you're building an automation in Airtable, the easiest way to control when the automation runs is to pair your automation with a dedicated view. To get started, just click on the Automations button in the toolbar and select Create a New Automation. In the Choose a Trigger window that appears, choose When a Record Enters a View. Then, we need to select the table and view that we want to watch. We'll choose the Onboarding view as the view that we want to watch for new records in. Then, under the Test Step section, we'll click Choose a Record to pick a record that we can use to test the automation as we're building it. The test was successful, so we can click on the Add Advanced Logic or Action button to add a Slack step. In the window that appears, we'll scroll down to the Integrations to find Slack and select Send Message. When you're using an Airtable automation to send data to other apps, you'll always need to sign in to the relevant app and authorize Airtable. So we'll connect our Slack account to Airtable and grant the required permissions. Now we can customize the message that we want to send and choose which channel we want to send it to. A new employee is ready for onboarding. Now, here's where things get interesting. Instead of just sending the exact same message every time, we can configure the message to send dynamic data that reflects the current record which triggered the automation. To do that, we can just click on the blue plus sign to access data retrieved in earlier steps in the automation. We'll include the employee's name, department, and start date. That way, we can see who the new employee is. We'll give our Slack bot a name, onboarding auto, and add an emoji. Now our message is all set. Let's click here to generate a preview. This will show us what our message in Slack will look like, more or less, but won't actually send the message. Everything looks good in the preview, but just to be sure the automation works as intended, we'll click on Test Automation. Then we'll select a record and click on Run Automation. And we've got a Slack message, exactly as we've configured it in the automation. We'll turn on our automation and give it a descriptive name. Now, whenever the employee's status is changed to onboarding, this automation will run. At this time, it's also a good idea to copy the URL of the automation itself and copy it to the description of the onboarding view. That way, you'll always know that the onboarding view is connected to this specific automation. I just want to highlight this again. Filters and views are essential for triggering Airtable automations, as they allow you to define specific conditions that need to be met for an automation to trigger. In this example, we used a filter to only show records with a status of onboarding, and a view to define which records to watch for new hires. By using filters and views, you can ensure that your automations are triggered only when they are relevant and avoid accidentally triggering automations. Overall, Airtable's automation features make it easy to automate repetitive tasks and streamline your workflow, saving you time and effort in the long run. With a little bit of planning and experimentation, you can create powerful automations that help you get even more done with less effort. And this is just the beginning of what you can do with automations in Airtable. There is full support for API calls, custom JavaScript, and more that can help even the most sophisticated product and tech teams stay connected with external databases and apps. For more complicated automations, or automations that use apps not supported directly by Airtable, you can use third-party providers like Zapier or Make. Zapier and Make support thousands of popular web apps and offer extensive options for building everything from a two-step automation to sophisticated workflows with loops and branching paths. If you're a no-code builder, Airtable is a great app to use as a centralized database that supports all of your automations across several different platforms. You can even use it to control when your automations run and to collect and process the data that your automations create. If you'd like to explore Airtable automation with third-party providers, we have a ton of tutorials on our channel for both platforms, like our comprehensive beginner's guide to Zapier. You can even check out our automation search engine, XRay.Tools, to quickly discover what you can automate with Airtable and the tools you already use. But for this video, we'll be sticking with what you can do in Airtable itself. So let's finish up this beginner's guide with a quick look at Airtable interfaces. Interfaces are a feature that let you distill any table into a simple visual interface or a dashboard. Interfaces can help you create a visually engaging summary of your data or build a simpler layout for your team to interact with. While interfaces have much more aesthetic customization options than standard tables, they're still not suited to create customer-facing products. This is really geared for internal teams only. In other words, if you want to build a website out of your Airtable data, you'll need an app like Softr to create a polished, user-friendly interface. You can learn more about Softr in this video about building a complete no-code product. There's a lot you can do with interfaces, and we won't be able to cover it all in this video. But to help you get started with Airtable interfaces, I'll show you how you can build a simple dashboard interface to get a visual summary of your tables. To begin, just click on Interfaces in the toolbar next to Automations. Then, choose Start Building. Now you can give your interface a name. We'll call ours Employee Dashboard. Next, you can choose a layout type to get started with your first page. You can add several pages to your interface with different layouts, so feel free to experiment. On the right, you'll see a preview of your selected layout. As you can see, the layouts are all very similar to Airtable's various view types. But one that's a little more unique is the dashboard, which we'll select for our first page. A dashboard displays statistics derived from your data, like the total number of records in a specific view or a table, and a visual breakdown of records based on specific fields. Next, we'll pick the table we want to use for the dashboard. We'll choose Employee Directory. By default, the dashboard includes a filter, 3 high-level numbers, a bar chart, and a pie chart. We could customize these figures a little bit more here, but we'll have more granular control once the dashboard is actually created. So we'll just click Next. Then we'll give our page a name and click Finish. The first number with a green background is configured to count all the records in the table, so we'll update that label to reflect that. The next 2 numbers are also just counting the total number of records, and we don't need to see that number 3 times, so we'll update those now. We'll select the second number. Then under Records, we'll choose Specific Records. So that element will only count the records that match certain conditions. We'll have this element count how many employees are marked as onboarding. And under Appearance, we'll change the label to Onboarding. We only want to see 2 numbers for now, so we'll delete the third. Then we can just drag the remaining elements to resize them. To edit these charts, just select them and configure your options on the panel to the right. You can change the chart type, the data source, and the appearance of these charts. Just like the number elements, you can also resize these charts however you'd like. Clicking on the Add Element button to the bottom left will let you add a new element to your page. Let's add a button that links to our Add New Employee form. To wrap things up for this quick interface overview, let's edit the filter at the top of the page. When we select it, we can see that there's currently no filter under the Data section. We'll add a filter, select Department Is, and leave the selection blank for now. Now let's click on Preview to see what the published interface will look like. When a user is looking at the interface, they'll see all of the data that you configured, but they won't be able to edit anything for this specific dashboard. However, we can change this filter at the top to choose which departments we'd like to see. There's a lot more you can do with interfaces, like creating editable grid views that you can share with anyone on your team, displaying additional record details as a side sheet, and additional publishing and styling options, just to name a few. If you're interested in more detailed tutorials about interfaces, comment down below and let us know. Our interface is looking good, so let's publish it. Now we can configure permissions and create a shareable link. This is a great way to share reports or specific data without giving direct access to your database. Note that you will need to sign in to Airtable, so this will only be available for people on your team. If you want to share something publicly, that's what shareable links are for inside of the data panel. Once you've learned the ropes, you'll be able to create some great new pages for displaying, summarizing, and sharing your data. Airtable is a versatile tool that can be used in a variety of contexts, from personal organization to project management and beyond. By following the walkthroughs in this video, you can get started with Airtable and begin to see the benefits of a flexible, customizable database to manage your data. From creating your first table to adding automations and creating interfaces, Airtable offers a range of features that can help you streamline your workflow and improve your productivity. Whether you're a beginner or an experienced user, there's always more to learn with Airtable, and I hope this guide has provided you with a solid foundation for your journey. If you've enjoyed this video, prove you're human, like and subscribe for more automation tips every single week. If you'd like to learn more about no-code and low-code automation, follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook, and you can find all of our content on our website at XRay.Tech. You can find all those links in the resources board down below, and as always, don't forget, keep the flow.